and salutes his favorite driver. The fans are ready to salute the starting lineup because it's time to go racing once again. Tim Arre would be starting right up front with car number 89. Then it was Eddie Bound on the outside of him. Pete Britton, the champion, would be making up the second row with Gil Hearn. Then it was Tommy Mauser and Stephen Park in row number 3. Reggie Ruggiero and Ricky Fuller were doing it from the back of the pack as it was time to go racing once again. Other heavy hitters included in the starting lineup included Tony Siscone. But when the field went to green, there was no question about it up front. It was Tim Ayer who was setting the pace. But the challenge was already on for second. To the inside and making the move when suddenly the field would get crossed up and John Blewitt would literally T-bone and slam the pit retaining wall hard with car number 76. Blewitt was severely shaken up in the mix-up as he would come across the track hard and literally hit with the driver's side of car number 76. And Reggie Ruggiero, well, he'd go to the pit area and he would be out of the event for the day. Well, this would bring out a red flag situation as the emergency and safety vehicles would go to the assistant of John Blewitt. He would be kept overnight in the hospital and the next day released in good condition. Back to the racing surface, there was more great racing action when Stephen Park would get crossed up with car number 24. But Stephen Park wasn't going to settle for a spot on the back of the pack. He thread the needle to get to the front. It was still Tim Ayer who was dominating the racing action when suddenly Marty Truex would get out of shape and Ralph Solim's number 0. Truex would lose a few spots, but then work his way to contend back towards the front of the field. Then it was Jeff Jones and Greg Tomaino who'd lock horns coming off the 4th turn, and that would bring out yet another caution, sending a lot of the cars scrambling as they'd be ready to regroup for the competition here. Tim Arre was the man still dominating the racing action on the restart as Pete Britton would move to the inside of Eddie Bound. The battle was still on as Tom Mauser would work his way and take over the 3rd spot. Jamie Tomaino wasn't far behind, and Tony Siscone was literally flying to get to the front of the field. It was Pete Britton who was holding on to that number 2 spot as Mauser was still trying to reel him in. Jamie Tomaino was looking for that one move that would put him as a factor to get to the front of the field. But it was Gil Hearn who developed a problem with the car that previously won this race just 1 year ago. Heavy Smoke would tell the story as Hearn would bring the car back to the pit area. But back up front, the real battle was still going on. It was Mauser to the inside of Britton. Britton would still try to hold on to the spot. Then suddenly Mauser would make contact. Britton would get out of shape, do a great job of correcting the automobile, as Mauser would still maintain position number 2. Britton would lose several positions on the racetrack, as now the challenge was on with Ken Woolley, who had worked the outside lane with Lenny Boyd. Mauser had cut a tire with car number 45, going down through the center of the infield. His day was not as impressive as suddenly it had started. Then Tony Siscone, while contending up front, would go around with car number 14 after cutting a tire. This would bring out yet another caution as Siscone would quickly head to the pit area. Siscone would look for a fresh rear tire to put him back into the thick of things. While the racing track crew was cleaning up the racing surface from out of the pit area, the leaders would fly by and Tony Siscone would have to wait, putting him 1 lap down in the competition here. Siscone was unaware of the factor. Then it was Lenny Boyd and Jamie Tomaino who were working their way to contend up front for position number 2. Boyd had now taken over the number 2 spot. Tomaino was setting in 3rd, and Siscone was coming to the front like the old hot knife through butter. He was definitely on a roll, and Bobby Park was looking strong. Ken Woolley would get a little bit out of shape. Some suspension damage would tell the story on car number 40, as Woolley was having a tough day while contending right up front. This would bring out yet another caution in the competition here. And with the caution, things got tightened back up once again. It was Tim Ayer who was still trying to hold on to the number 1 spot. But Lenny Boyle had reeled him in and was looking for some racing room on the bottom. Ayer was still trying to hold on the outside, but Boyd made it look so impressive as he easily took over position number 1. It was Tim Ayer who now had to settle for 2nd. But Tony Siscone was a car that was flying to the front of the field as Jamie Jet Tomaino had now worked his way to contend for the 3rd spot. Siscone was on a roll. He was 1 lap down, but no one had told him of the matter. And Tony Ferrante, well, he was flying too, heading to the front of the pack with car number 31. There was no question about it. Tomaino had his hands full as he was trying to hold off the heavy pressure being applied here. Then it was car number 24, Stephen Park, who developed a mechanical problem, and he would drop out of the competition here. Then it was Marty Truex who would go around with car number 0, while contending among the top cars once again. Truex would regroup it and put it back towards the front of the field. but it was Tony Siscone who worked the outside lane to put the pressure on Lenny Boyd. Time was starting to run out, and what a battle it was for position number 1. Siscone was now the number 1 car on the racetrack, but he was not the leader of the event. The white flag was out. Siscone was 1 lap down, and it was Lenny Boyd who was dominating the racing action right up front. It was Boyd who was looking for victory as he would come off the turn and head to the winner's circle. It was Lenny Boyd who'd take down this prestigious event. Tony Ferrante in for an impressive and great run for second over Tony Siscone, Tim Arre, and a great run for Bobby Park.
You know, I held my breath about 4 times in that race and came out and came through it lucky. So, you know, missing the accidents was everything today. And there was about 4 big ones right in front of me. So just picked my way through and kept all the wheels pointing the same way.
What were you thinking when you seen Tony Siscone coming up behind you? Do you think that he was getting you for the lead?
Well, I remembered that he went in the pits, and I was pretty sure he was a lap down. But I'll tell you, that makes you think. That makes you do some real hard thinking. But he was pushing me all the way down the straightaway. There was no way I could have held him off. So even if he was in the lead lap, he deserved to win. But it's a shame he was down a lap. He was the fastest car. But he had, I guess, fresher tires than I did at the end, and he was a lot faster, but he wasn't on the lead lap, obviously, so it didn't work.
I closed Lenny right down. When I got into second place, or what I thought was second, Lenny was a straightaway ahead, and in 10 laps I was on his bumper. I just showed him what I had, and he was a gentleman, gave me some room, but I thought I was going for the win, you know. Then we just pulled away from him, and obviously he won, and we ended up third. Did you have any idea how much time you had left at the end of the race? How many laps were left? Yeah, my radio man, when I came back after the blowout and fell into the rear of the field, you know, he told me there was about 35 laps, 40 laps left. So I had some idea. Then, of course, 5 to go came, and, you know, I was out in front, I thought.
Congratulations goes out to Tony Siscone. Remember, a year ago, he didn't even qualify for this event. And he, by far, is one of the winningest drivers ever to touch the pavement at the Wall Stadium. This year's Turkey Derby event almost looked like it would be a shoo-in, as he had worked his way from the back of the pack to head to the front.